Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop Fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to The Next Reel. I'm Pete Wright. That there, right over there, is Andy Nelson.
Hello.
High fidelity Andy.
In stereo.
And you can find us at thenextreel.com, which is where you can read more about this special edition of The Next Reel Show. We're going to talk about something real special. But before we get into that, we want to make sure to remind you to head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show for free. You can just search for it, The Next Reel, in iTunes. You'll find it. You subscribe for free. You leave us a nice comment because, being so pretty. It doesn't come easy. And you can do that. You can join the conversation on any of the various social platforms. You can find Andy on the Twitter at Soda Creek Film, and you can find me at Pete Wright. We would love to hear from you. And I think what else did I... Oh, yeah, and don't forget, jump over to flickchart.com/thenextreel to catch up our stack rankings of all the great movies we've talked about, and letterboxd.com/thenextreel to see our watch list. I think that's the important stuff.
I think so.
All right,
you did it.
Now we get to talk about the meat of our show sandwich tonight.
Wow.
Andy, you have something of an obsession, and this has become this is a series, because last year who did we do last year? The Writer.
I don't know if it's a series.
It has become it's a pair.
It's a pair. It's a pairing. It's a pairing.
Yeah.
Once I hit 3, then I think is it an addiction at 3?
No, then it's a trilogy.
It's a trilogy, and then it's an addiction.
Then it's an addiction.
And then I need
then
to
it's
seek
007.
attention.
Yes. So it started last year with the screenwriter of Clute,
Andy Lewis,
who was fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is the big follow up. We have this interview. Would you like to tell the people who we're going to be talking to this evening?
Well, I if they've been listening to the shows, hopefully they have some sense of an idea.
Let's pretend they're not and make it a big surprise.
Let's pretend they're not. The big surprise is it's Richard Dysart, screen legend, stage legend, TV legend. He's everywhere. This man.
He's everywhere. This guy. He was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you tracked him down.
I did.
You were the one who tracked him down, and I'm the one who made him sit on the floor.
Yes, I put my people to work to do all the hard work of finding him, and then you belittle the man and make him.
You build him up, I break him down. In all seriousness, this guy has been around a long, long time, and Andy and I had the opportunity to talk to him about how he was quite literally part of building cinema, part of building television, making the transition from radio performance to TV. And he has, his work is, if you don't know him by name, and there is a fair chance that you won't know him by name, you certainly will know him from the parts he played and the voice he brings to his characters, which we'll talk about in this evening's show.
Absolutely.
Highlights. You want to let people know what you're most excited to share?
Well, way back in our episode about The Thing, I think we both highlighted how influential that particular horror movie was, and some of the scenes involving Richard Dysart in that film were on us as young children who probably shouldn't have been allowed to watch it at the time.
I mean, guaranteed we should not have been allowed to watch that show.
But I think he's been burned into my brain from those early days of watching that film, and it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to talking to him about, that film, along with being there, working with Peter Sellers. There's just so many. L.A. Law.
Well, that's the one. Yeah, for me, was L.A. Law. 71 some odd episodes of L.A. Law. Every single episode he was in L.A. Law, and we talked about the hospital a little bit, which and he has a funny performance in that film with George C. Scott. So you will recognize him. I will say he's 85 years old this year. And he hasn't worked in the industry in many years. And he was very gracious and very patient. And honest to God, he sat on the floor because the chair was too creaky. And so he sat on the floor and was just an incredibly good sport. And you can tell, I don't think this is unfair to say, he worked hard to rack his brain for some of these memories.
Yeah, we were really making him dig some stuff up from long ago.
We did. We absolutely did. And so we are deeply honored to share with you this conversation with the fantastic Richard Dysart.
how did you end up acting? What is it that drew you to this crazy business?
Well, it came about pretty much by chance. Also, the fact that I realized that somebody has to do it. So I jumped in, and it worked. I started out as a theater actor in New York City, and I didn't do any television and then only sporadically what was working in the theater. It's difficult sometimes, schedule-wise. I was interested in radio because when I was a child, first grade or so, I was in bed with rheumatic fever for over a year. And all I had was this little radio that they hooked up in my bedroom, way up in the woods of Maine. There was only one station they could get, and that was problematical. And but I did fall in love with the radio because it was my companion. So I became very attracted to communication and decided to go to Emerson College in Boston. And it worked from there, studying broadcasting subjects and what have you, that I really liked performing.
So you aren't the whole time saying, curse this stuff. I really wish I could be a radio station administrator.
Yes.
If only I could be a station manager.
Yes. And then this would all be out of the way.
My dreams are foiled.
Yeah. Well, so that's how it started.
And then did you start performing theater when you were in college, or did that come after that?
Yes, in college. And I was very attracted to it, and the powers that be were giving me a very positive push on maintaining that. And so I did. I don't regret it one bit. Very interesting how these major decisions you make in your life sometimes come to you without your realization of how big that decision is going to be. So it wasn't until later in life that I said, hey, that was very lucky, and I was very glad I made those decisions way back then when they really didn't matter.
How did you transition from that to jumping into television? Was it a hard transition at that time, or did it turn into a fairly easy transition?
It was an extremely easy transition, and I'll tell you why. I was in the Circle and Square Theater, and we were doing a play, Thornton Wilder's Our Town, and NBC, and it was a huge success. And NBC decided that they would make a television show of Our Town. And the director was Jose Quintero, very fine young director at that time. And he chose for his cast on the television show many people from the off-Broadway production that he had also directed. So here's a bunch of us going into television, some of us for the first time. It was an amazing thing. I wasn't nervous at all. We were all standing around our NBC microphones in New York City, and the program started with an announcement by the network, which they made at that time for all shows that were coming out of New York City. We were standing there at our microphones, and this voice came on and said, "And now, live from New York." And we just melted. I mean, everybody calm and ready to go. And then,
I'm so glad you said that, because this whole time I'm thinking you're standing with a group of people in an industry that just scant, years before did not exist, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there is no one with a level of expertise in performing on television when you started performing on television.
That's true.
How do you go about creating a career for yourself in which you have ostensibly no role models?
Well, That's why it was successful, because I seemed to know what to do.
You faked it well.
or how to go, or how to go about it.
Yeah.
Now, everything was working. Everything was working fine. That show of our town went on television was very successful, and so although I was doing theater there in New York, off-Broadway theater at the time, every once in a while now, after that show, they would hire me for other television things that were being done in New York. So I sort of crept into the industry. And you're right, there was nothing to guide you at all. Early television in New York City, for example, they did a lot of costume drama for national television in New York for some reason. Mm-hmm. As soon as you finished the scene, you would go running to your dressing room, and there'd be people there to help you, and you would have rehearsed this, changing your clothes with them and everything else, and rushing back on to walk on to the television stage.
So in a way, theater really prepared you for this, because I mean, it's very similar, right?
That's right. And it was very confusing. Some people would come on, and they would have the old shoes and socks on and something. It's one of those things that is absolutely hell to do. But as soon as it was over, it was wonderful.
But we've talked about two of your films already, and one of them, we're talking about The Hospital. You worked with George C. Scott. You then worked with him again in Petulia in '68, The Hospital in '71, and obviously The Last Days of Patton. And I'm curious about how your relationship with George C. Scott sort of evolved. Is it just luck that you end up working with him on those projects, or does that come as more of calculated happenstance based on this a friendship that you're developing with him?
Yes, George and I developed a very good friendship. We all actors drank in those days.
In those days?
Yeah, in those days.
Yeah, and we became very good friends very fast. We both had military service and stuff like that. I was doing small roles in great plays at the Old Circle and the Square, and so was George. And we weren't in a play together, but he, for some reason, sort of took me under his wing, and he wasn't an old man. He was pretty much of a kid at the same time. And his Colleen Dewhurst, who was his second wife, I guess, and I were also very good friends. It was George who got me into that.
We were talking about East Side, West Side.
The TV show East Side, West Side. Right, yeah.
East Side, West Side, which was television, and it was in New York. So anyway, I was in good company, let's put it that way.
You continue working in TV for a while, but it's around that same time in the early 60s when you make that, I guess, the next transition, going from radio to theater to live television. And now you jump to the world of feature films, which is kind of another entire entity that you're jumping into. And from what I can tell, it looks like you started as in an uncredited role as an accountant, working with Steve McQueen and Natalie Wood in their movie Love with the Proper Stranger.
That's right. That was the first feature film. And were you to go see that film today, or see it on television or what, you'd never notice me.
You're the guy in the corner.
I was the guy in the corner, in a corner of a very crowded room. And my one line was something, I forget who was the star of that, walking by me, and he said something to me, and I gave him a funny retort. It was just all part of creating the climate of the scene, so to speak. But to me, that was worth starting my resume, because I was in there, by God, and I did it.
it's hard to go wrong starting off in a Steve McQueen movie. You know, that's a good place to start.
Oh, yes, it was.
How hard was it in those days at working in TV? How hard was it to kind of jump from the small screen to the big screen? Was that a difficult transition at that time, or was it fairly easy because of this new medium that everyone was tapping into?
Yes. I think, well, since I didn't know very much about either medium, one just seemed to fall in line with the other from an actor's point of view.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't recall being concerned about that at all. Because in those days, they were all being done on film. The television was done with huge cameras on the floor, rolling all over the place, rolling over their own cords and, wiring and everything else to get from one side of the stage to the other. And cameras get all tied up in the middle of the production and couldn't move from one place to another. Oh, I tell you, it wasn't funny, but in retrospect, it was hilarious.
The struggles of dealing with the new technologies, right?
Right. I wasn't quite that concerned about the technology being new. Of course, I knew it was new. I knew that jump was different. And you see, the industry changed at the same time. The television battle between Southern California and New York City was won by California. Most of the television industry grew up out here, which is the normal thing to do, I guess, when you have film already here. You've got people who understand film. Going to tape didn't really affect us that much. Or live television. Live television was the bugger. You had to really keep awake. Of course, you're awake anyway. You really had to be aware of what was coming.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes.
Sage advice, Dick. Always stay awake if you're a live television actor.
And even if you're a dead one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the work. And I think I looked at it as much, I won't say as a game, but, and I did take it extremely seriously because it was rapidly pulling me away from the stage into programs that were being done in New York City on television and film. Later on, 72, I think it was, I moved my life out here. I would come out and do a film and then go back to New York. And I pretty soon realized how my life was heading. And so I moved out here.
Seems like a fairly major commitment.
Yes.
Commitment to a career direction by making that move. That's
true. Well, somewhere in the back of the head, I was sort of hoping that would happen, that I would get out here because it's much more dependable work. Television and film work much more dependable here than it is in New York. Of course, for films, they'll take you from your hometown to wherever they want you to be. But in those days, that wasn't quite as broad as it is now.
As we look at your catalog of films, you have been in. I can't seem to find a genre of film that you haven't necessarily performed in, from satires to westerns to horrors to creature films, sci-fi films, Christmas films, dramas. But you do always seem to come back to these films based on true stories. At least not that you come back to them, but it seems like you land in them. You played Eisenhower twice and Truman twice, and Truman twice. I mean, really, that you played Truman twice, and then this Gary Sinise takes it for you after you've already played it twice. Come on.
Yes, he did take it, and he rubbed it into me, too. Because I played Secretary War Stimson in that film.
Right.
And I remember when Sinise is a very, very nice man, an excellent actor, and we got along very well. And we'd be rehearsing a scene and such. And I would be looking at him, and I might nod my head no. That's not Truman. Come on.
You had to school him a little bit, huh?
Yes, but it was sort of fun to do.
All right, we're talking obviously of 1995's Truman. This whole sense about you kind of dealing with these films based on true stories. What is it that draws you to these stories? How do you find you? Was that another bit of kind of calculated happenstance that draws you to these roles, or you're going in with more intention than that?
No, I didn't go in with more intention of it. In fact, I was aware that I was playing people who were alive or interesting people who were no longer alive. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing research on projects. I like to go and really find out all I can about these people. You have to be careful that you don't insert something bad about a character or overly good that you know about them that doesn't have anything to do with the film at all. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a really interesting point. The fact that you're sort of adding to the historical view of the characters that you play.
That's true. That's true. I had never looked at it from that point of view, but it's very true. And as I say, I have thought through the years, how come I'm getting all these people, that are more so than ordinary films that have their own stories that aren't about anybody you know anyway.
Right.
You're in a kind of an interesting position, though, when you look at playing Eisenhower twice and Truman twice, these major, historical figures for this country. Do you find you played them differently across those movies?
Eisenhower, the first thing I remember was when I put on that uniform and looked in the mirror, I just gasped. I was already made up and with the makeup on, and I just didn't know what to think or say or anything. It impressed me more than it impressed anybody else, I guess. But the power of wardrobe, the power of things like within the industry, it was very clear to me at that time.
And that's got to be pretty interesting, looking at yourself as Eisenhower and having that moment, and the same thing with Truman, looking at yourself as Truman. And as an actor, I think that's one of the magical things that draws people not just to become actors, but also to watch and to enjoy these stories, is seeing these people like you transform from Richard Dysart to becoming, Truman or Eisenhower or or Louis B. Mayer or whoever it is.
Yes, yeah, I Louis B. Mayer. I played several Hollywood bigwigs. Jack Warner, for example.
You're right, Warner and Louis B. Mayer, and then of course there's the fictional but equally interesting Hollywood story of the Day of the Locust.
Oh yes, I think that's a great film, and I still do. I don't know. I think that they said, "Oh well, here, look at this actor. He plays people with the way those particular people are," which is what I was doing, not just a regular character.
Yeah.
And with the research and everything, it was it all worked out good because I kept getting work after work after work of presidents and generals and all these interesting men.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I keep looking at this, trying to figure out. This is how I was trying to parse this question. Was it, would you see yourself as being typecast for a particular type of role? And hearing you talk about this, it seems like not necessarily for a type of role, but certainly for how you say it, people.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say too. Couldn't get around it. Yeah, Well, it's sort of unusual, I think. I don't know how many actors have put that much of their career into other people's lives.
Are there any that stand out to you that you feel, man, I really feel like I did that person justice? That like you really feel like you created a defining performance for that person?
Yes, Churchill and the Generals, the BBC production. There was a scene where, a relatively short two-person scene with Eisenhower and Churchill, and it was Eisenhower's duty in that scene to let Churchill know that Eisenhower had been put in between Roosevelt and Churchill. That Churchill had had somebody over him other than the President of the United States. Yeah, it was very well written. It was a put down to Churchill. Mm-hmm. But it was because of historical facts and things that had sort of had to happen. Eisenhower was going to be in charge of the whole game over there, and this was before that happened.
So you've played a number now of U.S. presidents. Which president that you played do you feel you'd have been most likely to vote for based on your portrayal of him?
Based on my portrayal?
Yes.
Oh, I vote for both of them. No, I think Eisenhower, although Truman had more heart, so to speak. He got to be president through a much different way than Eisenhower did. And he was very well, politically, Truman, he was a senator from a Midwestern state, and nobody knew much about him, didn't care much about him, until all of a sudden, whoa, he's president. Sort of a lesson a political lesson to everybody, that the office of vice president is not just what somebody can get for you in terms of votes or how they look or anything like that, but you get to be right with it, I guess. I don't know quite how to explain that.
Well, you have to be ready to jump in. I mean, you really have to be ready to be president, right?
Right.
Well, and I think that's a great point. That the media portrayal of Truman in that transition has actually, I think, defined a lot of the media narrative since. That has become a question in debates and in since that time. I think that's a very powerful statement.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. I think it sort of reflects well on both of them. Truman, if I had to spend time with one of them, I'd rather spend it with Truman, I think.
That's probably a better question than the one we asked.
Well, that's comes down to the same thing. So, were we to go out to dinner, and of course Eisenhower was very dramatic. Truman was not dramatic, but somehow he came off as a stronger person. It's because he wasn't trying to be a dramatic president. He wasn't saying, I'm speaking with all the power that the president has and all that. Truman didn't do that. It was this same old Truman from the Midwest. I graduated up to the top of the game.
One of the early films that we reviewed of yours was Arthur Hiller's film, The Hospital, written by Paddy Chayefsky. What is it that drew you to this film in particular?
I had a great regard for Paddy Chayefsky. I wanted to see his work. I wanted to be around when his work was being done. He was a true master of the human condition, I think. And he was very demanding as a director. In fact, Chayefsky, as a writer, he would go for every scene, every shot that was put together in that movie, The Hospital, sitting right beside the camera as close as he could get, watching the scene unfold and listening to make sure every syllable that he wrote was spoken. He was a real professional about actors learning his words and not occasionally substituting something of their own I think that's a very big thing. I've heard through the years that some scenes didn't fully work in a film because somebody had changed a few lines in there or a few words. And the movie writers have to be and are very careful that their storyline and their treatment of the characters are all one, all the same, all given a lot of consideration.
Well, of course, Arthur, and call me right back. I'm at the Holly Pavilion, 8th floor. And hurry, please.
All right, Welbeck?
Am I all right? That son of a bitch is trying to wipe me out. My partner, the eminent orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Noel Hogan, is a miserable thief, and he is trying to wipe me out.
Drummond's chart, Doctor.
What? Oh, what room is it?
806.
I'm expecting a phone call. Put it straight through to me in that room. Son of a bitch has been draining the company with phony purchase orders on another company, of which it now turns out his wife is the principal stockholder. Transparent fraud. I'll send him up for 20 years. Well, Drummond, you don't seem that much the worse for wear. Would you mind using some other phone? I'm expecting an important call.
What is this? Who is this guy?
Yes, well, I'll be at the nurse's desk, Sergeant.
Well, you got a bit of a fever, Drummond.
It'll be futile for me to try to explain this to you
I'm
over
not
the phone.
Drummond, you monkey. Drummond's the other bed.
That's mine. Hello, it's Welbeck here. Yes, Arthur, go ahead.
I'm getting out of this nut house.
Just take it easy, Mr. Meade.
I came in here just to get a lousy polyp cut out.
My God, what do you mean? How many transactions were there? But Arthur, I borrowed against that stock. I'm in the
man,
hole
I'm
for
supposed to have peace and quiet.
What do you mean, Brazil? I talked to Hogan's office yesterday, and they told me I'm wiped out. The SEC has suspended trading in my stock.
Welbeck?
What is your experience as an actor working with someone who exhibits such direct control as Chayefsky did as a writer on this film?
Well, you go with what's going on. Some directors will not say anything to the actors before the scene is shot, all while the scene is being shot. Writers, I'm talking about. Writers, they stay very quiet on a set. But Chayefsky was a takeover guy, and he wanted the movie to be his words, his feelings, and his all progressing his ideas.
It's interesting that you say that because, I mean, Paddy Chayefsky came from theater and television, kind of like you did. And in the world of theater, the writer really is the one who kind of had the control, had the say over how things worked out. And in film, in film, it seems like the writer is usually more of a kind of a servant for the director, who seems to be the person with the final choice and the final say in how the product is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. I don't know what the experience was with Arthur Hiller and Paddy Chayefsky and their relationship on the film. But from an actor's perspective, I guess as long as there's that person who has the vision, it doesn't necessarily matter to you if it's the writer or the director, as long as somebody is there with the vision.
Yes, that's true. And it's the vision that you've got to really follow and hope that nobody messes you up on the way to getting there.
What did you think of the film when it came out? Paddy Chayefsky said after the movie came out, I mean, it's a scathing look at the medical system and hospitals. And he said he was afraid to go to hospitals after the movie came out because he was afraid of the doctors, getting back at him. And it sounded like he was, I mean, it was not fun for him, the idea of hospitals after this film. Did you experience any of that, or is that just kind of something that really was in his head?
It happens to me every time I go to the doctor.
Are you serious?
If I don't know the doctor and have full trust and things like that, how do I know what that person says? Oh, you were in the house. Oh, why did we call him?
Interestingly, speaking of, Paddy Chayefsky earlier, and as a writer who kind of had more control over his pictures and was working as a producer on a lot of his projects, you're right, we do see that actually with a lot of actors now who are very bright, they really understand the system, and who are coming on and producing their own projects now and it's, it really has become a medium for just smart people to excel in, as long as they know what they're doing, whatever their role happens to be.
Exactly. Even if they're on the periphery of a movie, they're in a position to do something like that. That's true. I think in all of the talents in the film industry, the people who are performing the duties today are a hell of a lot smarter, brighter, and considerate than the people who came before them.
Speaking of brainy people, in 1979, you were in Being There. It's one of our all-time favorite films, and a fascinating look at politics and the media and this relationship between the two, this sort of cultural collision.
He's gone, Chauncey.
Yes, I know, Robert. I've seen this before. It happens to old people. Will you be leaving now, Robert?
Oh. It's in a day or two. Yes.
Eve is staying. She said she will not close up the house.
You've become quite a close friend of Eve's, haven't you, Chance?
Yes. I love Eve very much, Robert.
And you really are a gardener, aren't you?
I am a gardener. Well, I'll go and tell Eve about Ben.
I understand.
How did you come to end up in Being There?
It was a novella, what's his name? Guy who wrote it.
That was Jerzy Kosinski, I believe.
Jerzy Kosinski is right. He wrote it as a novella and then was given the opportunity to have the first attack of writing the screenplay. And he did very, very well. See, when we're doing Being There, by chance, I was told by somebody who shouldn't have told anybody, a doctor, I was told Sellers was not well. And in fact, he did die, I guess, a matter of weeks after the movie was released or when it was finished. He didn't want anyone to know that, so I kept it secret. And he would go in and out of his character. He explained that the character he was playing in Being There was the most difficult that he'd ever attempted. I could see why. He had so many considerations that had to be made in the movie. He would stay in character all the time. He was anywhere near the set, and that film was being shot. Well, it was shot here in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and Asheville, North Carolina. A lot of it was shot down there. He had a fine understanding of it, I'll tell you that. It's my favorite film of all that I've made, and I think it's one of my favorite films of all time. I mean, there's no question about that. Al Ashby, and then he had every department in that production company was top boss and doing exactly what he wanted, which was necessary. I think he was a great director.
He really was a very humanist director. His films really tap into amazing characters that are just fascinating to become a part of for the 2 hours that you get to watch them in their films.
Right, that's true. He's fine. He's fine, and I just loved that film. I loved the making of it. I didn't know, you don't know what's going to happen to a movie, whether it's going to be hit or not, and you don't pay much attention to that, because you don't have that much control over it. It's the people that come along afterwards and sell the audience on it and things like that really control films these days. Great film. And you'd be surprised when people say, oh, when you were in Being There. And I would say, I wasn't about to say no. And being there, different from any of the other films, it's as if, oh, I'd forgotten about that film. Yes, I love that film. I think being there was a big hit, particularly with, I don't know how to say this, educated people. You can go to jail for that, saying that.
Yes, that's not very PC of you.
Oh, I guess not.
I have a hard time making a transition from that conversation about being there, especially after hearing you say it's your favorite film that you've ever done, because my favorite film that you've ever done, because of just the place that it has in my heart and my nightmares, is The Thing, 1982.
Yeah. Well,
you personally and individually cursed me for years, Dick Dysart. I would, good. Man, if I ever was having any sort of, if I saw you climb on top of my chest to start CPR,
well, I don't think that's going to be necessary. But if it is, have your checkbook handy.
Gary! Hey, you guys, come here!
What?
Somebody got to the blood.
What? Where's Clark?
Right here.
Wait a minute. Was this broken into?
No, the lock is undamaged. Somebody opened it, closed it, and then locked it.
Great. Well, who's got access to it? I guess I'm the only one.
And I got the only key.
That test of work, Doc?
Oh, I think so. Yes.
Somebody else sure thought so.
Well, who else could have used that key?
Nobody. I just give it to Copper whenever he needs it.
Could anybody have gotten it from you, Doc?
I don't see how. As soon as I'm finished, I return it right away.
Great.
When was the last time you used it?
A day or so ago, I guess.
I suppose somebody could have lifted it off me.
Oh, come on. That key ring of yours is always hooked to your belt.
It's not.
How did anybody get through it?
Accusing everybody.
Hey, you stop it! Now it ain't worth it.
Copper's the only one who's got any business with it.
Oh, now wait a minute, Gary. You've been in here on several occasions.
Doc thought of the test.
So what? Is that supposed to clear him?
Well, why?
Bullshit! Why would he come here and take it? Windows!
That was, that came around at a time, I think, for, at least you're talking to me and Andy, at a time that is, that's fairly formative in our cinema going age. For me, that movie defines a lot of what a creature horror film is. After coming from films like Being There, how do you end up in a creature horror film like this with John, from John Carpenter?
Well, it's not easy. I really don't know. I knew John Carpenter. He cast me out of the blue, I guess. I hadn't spoken to him before the possibility came up. I didn't go out and say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. I've never done that. Carpenter is, I think he's a brilliant director. And I think he has an extremely keen sense of the human condition, so to speak. Fancy phrase. But I think he does, and I think he is able to put that into his film. Now, The Thing, we started shooting it at Universal Studios, I think in the very late spring or early summer of that production year. We shot all the interior scenes on sets at Universal. And then sometime in early November, they gave us a week or so off, and then flew us up to Canada and Alaska, right on the border, Stewart, British Columbia, and the tiny little town I can't think of on the Alaska side of the border. Well, I noticed that in one of those towns, the only thing on the main street, which wasn't very long, was some kind of a store, market, and about 5 or 6 bars. Of course, we were shooting only exteriors up there. And at that time of year, it's dark all the time. So it was wonderful to shoot night scenes up there.
Because you're doing it at 2:00 in the afternoon.
All day long, yeah. I liked that movie very much, and I admire for John Carpenter for one reason. He had the responsibility in that movie of killing off 12 major characters in the movie.
Right.
That's not easy to do.
I was going to say he is very efficient at it. That is a rare skill.
And he's not redundant.
No, sir.
He's a good director, and I liked him, and he did an excellent job there.
Speaking to the ways that everyone gets killed off and how unique it all is, Rob Bottin did all these absolutely horrific creature effects in that film.
Aren't they terrific? Oh, yes.
They're amazing, and Pete and I often pine for the days when you had those real effects of just tangible stuff that the actors were actually working with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was it like being on set with these just amazing and truly horrifying, creature effects that Rob Bottin was coming up with?
Yes. Well, most of the effects are added after. If the sound involved or such as that,
sure,
they'll put them together afterwards with all the effects that are required. So you don't run into those effects very much, but you just have to be very sure of what's going on in the film, in the next scene that's coming along, and the scene that preceded it. Very difficult to stay online.
You do actually directly run into one of these effects and lose your arms.
Yes.
In the chest of a at this point reviving Vance.
Yes, I was reviving him. He was stretched out on a what do you call it?
A gurney. Yeah,
like a big gurney or medical table.
Tall medical table. And curled up on top of him and started check his face and everything to see if he's still alive and find out that he is, and trying to get pushed down, getting more air into his body. And all of a sudden his stomach just splits open wide, and there's going a hole there, and my hands go down into it. And my arms go down into it. My body goes out of frame, off the bottom of the frame, for a second or two. And then when I come back up, that one shot was done by a stuntman, a man who worked at Universal and had no lower section to his arms.
Really?
Yeah. And he was an employee of Universal, so
no kidding.
And he was just right for the part. So they put him into my clothes and or similar, and he gets up there and puts his head down and comes up, and they've got blood all over, spurting all over the place.
Oh yes, it was everywhere.
And the stubs of his arms are around.
And then did they do a mold of your face for him, or just
a mask?
They put a mask on.
Yeah,
Oh wow!
I guess it was a mold. It wasn't that complicated, but it was strong. It was going to hold together and everything like that. And the face, I did the scenes that followed, which would come in on me waving my arms without the camera on the tops of the arms. So it didn't matter. I think we shot one of those first, so that when the stunt double came up out of that with his arms having been bitten off at the elbows, he knows what was on my face. He has seen my face.
Right.
He was masking me. He was covering, making his face do what my face was doing. But there was so little time there in that area that it didn't. It worked very well.
I tell you, when I first saw it, the only thing I was looking at were the bloody stumps. That's all I was paying attention to.
Well, that actor was a steam sealer. Anyway, it's and then the fellow who's lying there on the gurney, his head falls off.
Right.
And lands beside him, just rolls off to the side, and still on the gurney, and it sprouts legs like a spider, a crab, and becomes a crab head. Falls off the top behind the fellow's head down onto the floor. And I don't know whether the scene is in the movie or not, but they did film that head with the crab leg claws going across the floor.
Oh, it's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, and it's horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. And I didn't even realize. I got so tied up in the making the scene, I didn't realize how powerful that scene was going to be. And I remember seeing a rush of it at the studio for the cast and such. And that whole studio just came right up out of their seats. It was unbelievable. And I saw it later in a regular movie house, and some people did get very tied up in it. It's an excellent scene, excellently done by the producer, and all makeup and wardrobe and effects and everything.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the cast. I mean, you're working with this cast, Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, T.K. Carter, David Clennon, Keith David. These guys who are not necessarily known, I guess, now in some respect, these guys are known for some of their more sort of action-oriented roles, but not really known at the time for their horror roles. And yet they come together with you in this cast that is extremely tight-knit in a genre film that is out of genre. What's it like sort of building the camaraderie with these guys on cast and or on set and making this absolutely terrifying film for me and Andy?
As I implied earlier, we worked a long time on that movie, from the middle of summer till Christmas, the beginning of summer until Christmas. So we got to know each other very well. Fortunately, all of it turned out good, and I think because of that. We had developed a trust in each other as actors. We could just go along and do what we're supposed to do.
I imagine it's really nice working in an environment where you develop a great camaraderie with all of the actors that you're working with.
Right. You know they're good. You know they're going to do it and do it right. It's very fulfilling to know that you're in something that has that truth and superior acting. Yeah, I'm very impressed with that film. Still am.
Are you generally a fan of the gross out creature effects films?
No. I shouldn't say that. I won't say I don't like them. I just that
your personal catalog is not rich in this area.
Yeah, I just don't go to them.
Well, I think the most important question, I think, about this film in particular is: have you seen the prequel remake of the thing that just came out a couple of years ago?
No, I didn't see it. I knew that they did it. Then I heard it was coming out, and I haven't heard anything about it since. Do you know any of the history of it?
Oh, it's probably best not that we don't talk about it.
It's
You saw the right one.
Yes.
Yeah. We definitely talked about the right. You made the right choice.
Yours is the one to watch.
Also, the thing that was
right.
mid-50, early 50, 53 or something like that. I certainly saw that film. Mm-hmm. And was very impressed with it.
Well, that's actually an interesting question. Did you, how much of your sort of, I guess I should say collectively, your preparation for the film was based on the short story?
Short story, you're right. That's true. It's a great guide and a great director, even though it's not the script that you're working on.
Right, right.
You're right. It still gives you a sense of kind of the
Yes.
story, and it gives you a little more flesh to it.
Right. I was told it with The Thing movie that it was shot downtown Los Angeles in an ice room, a company that froze water for ice to be taken out and peddled around and brought to people's homes for their refrigerators.
Oh, my goodness.
And by that time, they'd pretty much gone out of style, but the first film was filmed in a very cold, large, empty room.
Seems like no matter what, anyone who makes a version of this story is determined to put their actors in cold temperatures.
It's true. Boucher had them up on, when we were shooting the exteriors up on a mountainside near Stewart, British Columbia, at Christmas time. I think our prevailing temperature in what you and I think of as the daytime, but which is practically night because there's no sun, was 17 degrees below.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
Yeah. We were all dressed up well. Nobody was cold or anything like that. Our costumes not only looked right, but they served their purpose very well and kept us warm.
You've done a bunch of voice work in animation.
Yes.
Since the 80s. How do you have a specific affinity for this stuff, or do you I mean, you've obviously got a fantastic voice for it, and to me Spawn is constantly in my head, and is it something that you are specifically drawn to, or is this another one that an agent has spotted you and just keeps you working?
Well, it's yeah, it's a separate job by itself.
Right.
I just like it by watching the scene without the sound, without your voice. You still get a very solid feeling of what the energy is in the scene.
And the benefit of doing the animated projects is you can do it in your pajamas.
That's I wish I'd have thought of that.
A tip learned too late. Well, you've done a good variety of them. I mean, you did some voices in the Smurfs. You did voices in the GoBots. The English translated version of Castle in the Sky by Hayao Miyazaki. Batman, and like Pete said, Spawn. I mean, a really good variety of animated projects.
That's by chance. That's just by chance. I didn't select those on purpose. I like the idea of doing voice work, so it was just a natural thing for me to do, I guess. But I didn't select them all. There again is somebody saying, oh, he does good work. So call him again.
I want to make sure we don't minimize what is, I think largely your most memorable and long-term role, which is, L.A. Law.
Yes.
You played senior partner Leland McKenzie in 171 episodes of this show, 8 seasons, 1986 to 1984, and again in 2002 for the reunion movie. It's obviously recognized as one of the greats. It comes with some fantastic, not only cliffhanger, but jaw-dropping, gobsmacking moments, including, I believe, the number 38 most thrilling moments in television history. Nominated for 4 Emmys and winning in 1992 Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, beating Jimmy Smits, which, that guy needs to come down a few notches. Am I right?
Let me explain that.
Oh, no. I don't. It was just a joke. There's no explanation at all. What I really interested in is if you could just share on a little bit of how you what drew you to this role in particular. I'm fascinated by how you ended up as the certainly spiritual leaders of the of this cast and creating such an epic imprint in the legal drama.
It's the very subject matter itself was local. The script was superior. And so you had a pretty good chance of knowing what you're going to do. And if you can sell that, help the producers with good performances, it's going to be around for a long time. And so it proved for 8 years.
Did you know that it was going to be? I mean, is this one of those things where you read that first script for the pilot and have a sense that this is going to be something special?
That's right. I've had that with films too. It's uncanny. Being there, for example, and people were saying, well, it's a little obtuse. It's a little, I don't know what they were saying about it. And I said, no, this is a funny movie. It treats its characters very well. This is going to be hot.
The same feeling for L.A. Law.
Oh, yes.
And obviously, it has Stephen Bochco, the name attached to it, and he had been a very busy man leading up to this show. And so that certainly, I'm guessing, would be something that would draw you to.
Oh, of course. I knew Stephen before. I'm not very well, but he knew my work and stuff like that. And I certainly knew his work. And I wanted to be part of it. Rosalind Shea, strong character, who came along in the 5th season, I guess.
I think it was season 4.
Season 4. Tries to take the firm away from me and just about succeeds.
That was quite a season. That it was quite an interesting introduction to the season with her coming in, trying to take over as you're stepping down, leading to the secret tryst that everybody learns that you two are actually having.
Yes. I think that particular episode, played very, very close to Christmas. It really shocked a lot of people.
Not quite the Christmas present your fans were expecting, huh?
Yeah, my fans don't expect that from me at all. She's a marvelous actress. Was and is, I guess. She's still going. She was very successful with that role because she made the American audience hate her. And yet they liked her because of the way she used her power. It's a writer's challenge, actually, and very well performed. I didn't know. I don't think any of the cast knew how that was going to come out, her attempt to take over the firm and what would happen to Leland. The very basic idea to me was that I always knew I had a contract. And I was going to get paid. We finished shooting L.A. Law, and the follow-up sound work on it on the last day of the season. It was 2 days before or after my 65th birthday. Everybody said, oh, this is a good time for you to retire. I could have retired, but I wasn't ready for it, and I knew it. So I stayed on until I was 70. When I got to be 70, I says, okay, it seems right time for you to get out of here.
I've got to hear your opinion on how they elected to get Rosalind Shays off the show. I don't know. To me, that was more legendary than discovering the secret tryst.
Yes, right, it was. Well, she was brought in the latter part of the season to fulfill the part of this domineering, excellent lawyer who sees that the old man is about to retire and starts to take over the firm, trying very carefully while being very sweet to me, even luring me into bed.
Having her fall down that elevator shaft.
Oh, the shaft.
That was so shocking. You are having such a wonderful little conversation, and it's just kind of innocuous, and you know that there's been a lot of drama and build-up, and everybody's really, and then the elevator doors open, and she just disappears.
She does. And I said to Stephen Bochco before, I said, Steve, I don't know what the audience is going to think about this. Maybe I should somehow work it that I can keep my hands in view of the camera at all times. Because, neighbors were calling me saying, why did you push her down that elevator shaft?
Oh, no.
They just love to think the worst of television characters.
Rosalind, I'm sorry I can't marry you.
This isn't about that.
This is about that. For the past week, I've been getting nothing but resentment. You know that's true.
I don't resent you, Leland. If anything, maybe I resent myself.
For staying with a man who doesn't love you.
I really don't want to talk about it.
Rosalind! Oh my God!
Did you find it a satisfying resolution to that arc?
I I don't know what her personal history was with this, but I think they needed that character for one purpose. And once that purpose is denied or completed, they don't need it. Plus, they have 12 other ongoing characters all the time. They don't need more. And we weren't at that time in the business of adding characters.
Mm-hmm.
We changed actors a lot, and directors, and producers. But it's the actors there still doing their work that we were holding the show together during its final few years.
Well, it was a wonderful resolution, absolutely legendary resolution for me, I'll tell you that. Whoa, man, never
Definitely
forget
a shocker. Definitely a shocker.
It's high on the list. The discovery and figuring out who shot JR, those are pretty much the big ones for me.
Oh, yes. That's good company to be in.
It is good company. I'm telling you, you're right up there.
Well, Dick, I mean, it's been wonderful talking to you just about your life and everything you've been involved. Is there anything that any roles that you wish you had the chance to play, or anything that's just like, oh, I regret that? I mean, we already know about the radio engineer. We know that that's the big regret of your life.
Yes, my kingdom for a job in radio administration.
Boy, I forgot that one, I'll tell you.
But is there anything else that stands out as like one of those things that you wish you could have had a chance to do?
No. I suppose on the way there have been roles that I say, gee, I'd like to play that, but they don't return to me. And I don't very often see what somebody else does with them. I don't do anywhere. I haven't worked for about, 13, 14 years. I let my agent go and all the periphery and have had nothing to do. I haven't been in a studio since I gave up the ghost at age 70. Have come up with, what I feel is a pretty honest way of just living an ordinary life.
What does that look like for you right now, Dick?
Yeah, I'm sitting on the floor talking to people.
I know. You've made my new claim to fame.
I gave up driving about 3 years ago on my own. Nothing to do with the police.
That's lucky.
Yeah, very lucky that I made that decision. I went to a red light. I was going along and whoops, all of a sudden I found myself stopping in the middle of an intersection.
Well, that's not a great place to stop.
No. It's a place to say, I think I better get away from this automobile. And I have. Otherwise, I'm very pleased to be in my home here in Santa Monica, just half a mile from the ocean. And I'm just very happy. I kick the dog a bit,
Well, you're supposed to do that. You give up the car, there's a certain mantle that you take on.
Oh, boy.
Do you, you don't read any of the industry stuff. You find you watching any television or seeing any movies that are your of note that you particularly like these days?
I'm trying something new this year. I'm a member of the radio and television and the motion picture arts and sciences, and I'm a voter for the Academy Awards. And I decided this year we wouldn't go to any movies until the end of the season, when the producers, if they want their film recognized for any kind of an award, will send you the disc of their show. And last year I watched, I think, 60 some odd.
all over the course of about, 3 weeks?
A little long. That was it. Some of them didn't make it all the way, but most of them did. So I don't go to the movies all the time. Let's put an answer to your question. But sure. I'm going to be going to the movies for about a month, every day and night, watching these films.
That's the way I'd like to do it, actually.
Well, he'd get it all out of the way at the same time. You know?
It's just more efficient that way.
It's more efficient. And, you also have better, at 84, my memory isn't so good. I sometimes can forget things before I even say them. So this is going to be interesting to see how I'll be taking notes this year on movies that I see all in a row.
Well, Dick, I'll tell you, this is it's a real honor for us that you would be willing to take a couple hours out of your fine Saturday to talk to us about your history. You've made really an indelible mark on us through your films and your work, and we're so gracious that you would take your time and talk to us about this stuff.
Oh, well, thank you. I haven't had an interview of this nature in a long time, and never one that's free running. I appreciate that.
So there you have Richard Dysart, the lovely and talented Richard Dysart. It's probably, I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
I think he is lovely and talented.
He really is.
I think you hit it.
He's a gentleman's gentleman. That's what I love about Richard Dysart. And you know what? You know what you can tell? He got my jokes.
He's very gracious, and he actually is quite a funny man.
He's very funny, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. You can tell.
No,
and he does kick the dog. Favorite line. This was a great conversation, Andy. I don't want to spill the beans on who you're thinking that you're going to track down next, because I know the list is long and distinguished. But all I have to say is I'm really excited about where you're going to take this little special Andy series.
We'll see. We'll see where. We'll see what I can pull off.
I'm telling you, a new microphone is in your future. If you pull off what you pull off, Uncle Petey's going to come through. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. We sure appreciate it. And don't forget, head over to The Next Reel, search for us on iTunes, The Next Reel, subscribe to the show. It's still free. Even after this last hour, it's still free. And you should do that. Join the conversation online. Thanks, everybody. You have anything else to say, Andrew?
No. Not a one. Not one thing. I don't have anything to say.
Just keep it.
I'm done. I finished.
Good.
I'm spent. Mm-hmm. That's all.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.